Welcome to the Personalities in the Workplace podcast. Each week, Timogi and I are introducing you to an easy-to-understand conversation about personality types. Listen, navigating the different personalities in your business can be a tedious task, and we get it. But we believe that once you understand what drives and stresses those you work with, you can better interact and steer those same people toward productivity and success. In order to help, we're focusing on our 16th personality type today, the ENTP, who we call the entrepreneur. As we get started here, I'm going to take a very quick moment to do a little shout out to Sage Garden Care Center, who is sponsoring this episode of Personalities in the Workplace. We would love to work with you. Go check out what we offer and how we can help on our website, www.sagegardencare.org. All right, let's jump into our podcast.
This is your host, Timogi. Welcome to Personalities in the Workplace with Chuck Taylor.
Yeah, he is. Hey.
Okay, Chuck, so this is the last in this series, right, of the introduction to these Myers-Briggs personalities. I have avoided up until the last moment.
I see the strain on your forehead even as you speak.
Diving in to the final personality because it represents me. The ENTP, the entrepreneur.
Right? Yes.
So let us talk about this ENTP personality.
I love it. Probably one of the more fascinating ones to me. I think all the personality types are fascinating in their own way. Each one is unique. This one has a special verve, if we might say, for this just kind of infectious way of getting projects started and selling ideas and coming up with concepts and the way things could be and ought to be. I mean, if you want a dreamer and you want someone who wants to get a business started or 15 businesses started, this is the one that you want to go to.
One business, 15 doesn't matter.
Yeah, because they're starting is their specialty. Getting things going and getting the dream. Finishing may not always be their thing. But starting is for sure their thing. Right.
But you will never finish if you don't get started.
That's exactly right. So why not go ahead and begin? And you don't know what you can't do unless you get started. So
that's right. So these ENTPs, we started. Now, you know, I'm from Brooklyn, where we would say things like, don't start none, won't be none, right?
Right.
So if we get it started, it will get finished. Now, I might not be the one to finish it, Chuck.
Right.
But it's going to get finished by
I have this vision of you in high school inciting fights and sending your girls in, to go take care of business. It's a fun picture in my mind.
Oh my goodness, Chuck. I could tell you stories. I think it's past the statute of limitations on some of the stories that I could tell you, but we're not going to go there right now. So in the workplace, the entrepreneur, the ENTP, yours truly, my strengths are, I'm making it personal, is that I'm enterprising and self-assured.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about it.
So, and the other ENTPs that I've seen, and you echo this as much as others that I've seen, really embody this. So when we say enterprising, they're the ones who want to take initiative to create and to really start something. And think about Enterprise Rent-A-Car Company. I mean, their whole brand.
We'll pick you up.
That's right. By the way, Enterprise, if you want to sponsor the show, give us a call. I mean, their brand is built on, we want to create this model that is exciting, that is, we want to get in your space, we want to serve you. We want, like, they took rental car businesses to the next level. And it wasn't just we're at airports and we're available if you want to use us. It is, we're wherever you want to be, and we want to be in your space, and we want to help you get a car. We want to be out there. And so they took this enterprising campaign and they turned it into reality. And very much so, ENTPs do the same thing. You give me a business concept, you give me an idea, you find me a nook where somebody's not doing business, and I'm going to exploit that in order to make money and to do something significant.
Excellent.
And self-assured kind of mirrors with that, right? Because if you meet an ENTP, you're going to meet somebody who is very confident about themselves. Now, here's the irony that I found. A lot of ENTPs sometimes struggle with inner anxiety, but most people would never know that. right? It's just kind of this, I'm self-assured because I have to be self-assured because this is how we get things done. But internally, sometimes they kind of struggle with, can I pull this off? And I think it's that imbalance between getting things started and not being able to finish it and wondering, is this something that's sustainable for me? And I would say you need to leverage your strengths and focus on getting started and handing off to the next person.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a stressor for us, like you have listed so wonderfully on this card, deadlines and inefficiency, right? It's a stressor, but sometimes we create the inefficiency because we're so busy on the creative end, right?
Yes.
It makes it hard for people to take the baton, continue going when we're still in the creative phase of a thing.
And so in the workplace, here can be one of the real challenges is after an ENTP who has not really found a balance within themselves, after they've been in a workplace environment for a few years, what can happen is trust begins to erode in the relationship because they have a knack for going in and talking about this grand, big concept. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what it's going to look like. We can do this. We can do this. And people go, wow, that is a brilliant idea. We haven't heard that. Let's do that. And so people start investing time and money behind that idea. And a few months into it or a few weeks into it, all of a sudden they find that the ENTP is just not interested anymore. And that project is not going anywhere. And eventually people go, we can't hand projects to them because they won't see it through. And so if an ENTP does not support themselves with a strong staff or team of individuals who are good at the details and following and seeing something through to its completion, they can erode trust in the workplace.
Well, I've spoken about him in several podcasts, but I think about Steve Jobs.
Sure. It's an excellent resource for this. Yep.
Yes, this is why he was able to do what he did with Apple, okay? I mean, he was very brilliant what he did, but he had the people on his team that could take something out of his brain and make it happen, manifest it, bring it to fruition because he could do, he was such a brilliant man.
Absolutely. And he understood what he could do and he understood what he couldn't do. And that was a big deal. And he knew that surrounding himself with people meant getting the job done and allowing them to do the job the way they needed to do it. And I think this is one of the beautiful things about the ENTP that sometimes is in great contrast with the ENTJ. ENTJs often sometimes have the ability to see a project through to its completion. But unfortunately, sometimes along with that comes a level of micromanagement. And you don't get that with the ENTPs. Oftentimes with ENTPs, most certainly, there's a hands-off relationship. And it becomes so hands-off that people go, what are we doing again? What's this thing that we're into? And so they need to be able to cast that vision and stay with it. But Steve Jobs is an excellent resource for blending those two together well.
Right, yeah, these ENTPs were like, you have your question, are we still seeing each other? Right, you haven't called me in 3 weeks. Are we still together?
Yeah, I love it. I had a conversation with one lady who was an ENTP one time, and she said, yeah, I just quit dating him. And I said, well, did you tell him that? She said, no. I mean, I didn't talk to him for 3 weeks. I figured he was cued in on that. I said, I don't know that he was, right? Yeah, so, and they work from a very logical standpoint that not all other personality types do.
Yeah, and I get that. And so let's again focus on our strengths because these stressors, man, there's something else. So we're logical but adaptable.
Right.
So let's talk about that.
So, and this is the final 2 letters in the code coming together. This is the T and this is the P right here. So the T is the thinking, very logical. There's a way, a rationale of how things ought to be done. And this is what you'll find. I've found many ENTPs who will walk into a business scenario and they can sell a plan, they can sell an idea, they can sell a vision, and then they can get up and walk away from it when it ceases to be good anymore. And as an ENFP, I'm almost jealous of this because my F side gets me connected to the person I'm talking to, and I have a hard time separating the person away from the subject, whereas ENTPs don't seem to have that stressor. And so they look at if it's not rational, if it doesn't make logical sense, they can get up and say, no, this is no good anymore, I'm done. Right. And that adaptability side of them says if along the way in the plan, as I gain information and things begin to change, if it no longer works, if the structure doesn't work, again, I can get up and walk away. ENTJs, right, which are very close counterparts here, would say we've already started down the path, we need to commit to it and go with it. And so the real beauty of the ENTP is their ability to be a great business owner who can start something, even in the workplace, a business owner for a project. But when it ceases to be rational, it ceases to be logical, it ceases to be functional, they have the ability to get up and walk away from it and say, this isn't a good idea anymore.
Chuck, did you know me when I was married? Because I'm having flashbacks.
Right.
Dude, this is not working anymore.
Yeah, right.
I gotta go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gotta go now.
Right, yeah. I mean, okay, 15 years. Okay, moving right along. I digress.
Okay. We want to take a brief moment here to tell you about Sage Garden Care Center and why we've made this podcast available to you. Every business can optimize productivity by educating their leaders, managers, and employees of their blind spots and pain points. We provide the knowledge and the tools to help you engage your employees to best contribute to the organization's success. We help you leverage their strengths so that you can trust they're helping your organization flourish. As an optimization coach, I help companies nationally and internationally unify their teams, effectively engage conflict, communicate well, and bolster their aptitude for success. Whether you work with a company, a church, an NGO or nonprofit, an education center, or anything else, we have trainings that will help your team. Learn more at sagegardencare.org and look for Chuck's coaching under the Services tab. Schedule your free consultation appointment today, and we will discuss a plan that fits your budget, your needs, and your goals. All right, let's jump back into our conversation.
We're also deliberate. And that word is so sexy to me because when you are doing things and you are deliberate, right? It allows you to, number one, if it's good, Chuck, right? Say, see, I knew what I was doing, right? Yep. But because we are who we are as ENTPs, when it's bad, we go, yeah. I mean, if you're going to fail big, right?
Yeah, right. Yes. So I like the word deliberate here too, although if you spend a little time around ENTPs, it can be a bit of an odd word because they can come across as hesitant as they are fleshing out ideas. I got a buddy of mine who's an ENTP. He's just an absolutely brilliant business mind. But when he gets started on something, he will ask 1,000 questions. So in here, one of the other words for strengths is inquisitive. And he's constantly researching and asking questions. And it almost seems as if he's hesitant to really try to figure out, do I want to do this or not? But in reality, what he's doing is rationally saying, is this a good choice? Is this not a good choice? And he is deliberately and intentionally gathering the information necessary to make the right choice. When he goes to make a decision, you can guarantee that it is going to be a financially sound decision before he jumps into it.
Gotcha. So now let's look at a little bit of their stressors for the ENTP. And irrationality, dismissiveness, and I'm going to get back to touchy-feely. Let's start
with those.
Yeah.
So, but as a reminder, the stressors are the things that stress the personalities out. These are not weaknesses for each personality type. Right. So, irrational is somebody who's not irrational, right? Any one of the feeling counterparts that we bring into the count. If you have an F in your personality type and you haven't learned how to balance that with your T side, right? If you come into the conversation and you are, well, it just doesn't, I don't know that we should do this because there's this lady down the road and she could get her feelings hurt because of, I see you putting your hand up to your throat. Yeah, absolutely. It can feel like we're putting weight on things that don't matter.
Yeah.
Right. This is irrational conversation. It's not worth my time. I'm bored. I'm out. I'm done. And then dismissiveness, because here's the other thing you're going to learn, is ENTPs place a really high value on their personal intelligence and their ability to be able to put together a strong product and idea. Their problem with seeing something through has nothing to do with how intelligent and how well thought out it was at the beginning. Okay. Their problem for follow-through is just they don't want to do it anymore because the creative spark is gone. But if you go up to an ENTP and you go, that's not a really good idea, you haven't really thought that one through, well, you have just set a fire up underneath them. And they're going to prove to you
You talking to me, Chuck?
Else.
Chuck, are you talking to me? Who you talking to?
Yep. To my point exactly.
Right. Yeah, I get that. So that being said, because I feel like I personally have an extremely big, warm, pliable heart, right?
Sure. Yes. We have to remember that thinkers do have feelings.
Yes. But it says that one of our stressors are touchy-feely people. So talk to me about being in the workplace. You're an ENTP and you have a touchy-feely coworker.
Right. So remember, ENTPs are logical. They want to get things done. They want to get projects started. They're into the concepts. They're into the ideas. They're into productivity and things just working well. So ENTP comes into a meeting and says, here's this idea I have. Let's go with it. It's great. Meanwhile, along the way, you've got a person who goes, well, I mean, it sounds good, and I like the idea, but let's talk about Barbara, because, Barbara's had a really hard time with her husband,
You see my
and
face?
so she's not...
You see my face?
Right, and so the personal relationship stuff can be a little bit much, as well as, here's another component of this, personal space. Now, everybody's a little different on personal space. We have to remember cultures are different too, but sometimes ENTPs are moving fast and they're looking at their concepts of what needs to be done and their big picture, so they kind of want a broad area. If you've got that person that likes to be all up in your personal space and be a few inches away from you when they talk to you, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That can be overwhelming for sure. Yep.
Yes. I'm going to co-sign that completely. Absolutely. So now I've avoided this, but I'm going to go back to this because this is the last in this series, okay, on the introduction to the Myers-Briggs personalities. And we hope for sure that you have been entertained as well as enlightened and educated.
Yes.
So one of the strengths of the ENTP personality is that they are very entertaining.
Of course they are.
So talk to me.
Well, I mean, look, this is the salesmanship that comes along with a personality type. When they have gathered their information and they're ready to put forward this concept or this idea, they do it with great flair and great excitement. And it's so hard to say no to them because it's borderline a production what they're bringing out to you. As well, the P side of their personality has a certain irreverence about the way they do things. And we live in a society, especially here in the United States of America, that likes our mores, that likes our structure, likes everything to be just so. But we're quite entertained by the people who live outside of that structure. In ENTPs, they are the ones. And so they'll sometimes enjoy or make those crass jokes. They're just a little bit outside of what people would say are okay. And it can be funny because they're making light of situational circumstances that create tension and undue stress. And so they just break the tension, so to speak, in the workplace. And they can be very fun and lighthearted.
So what would you like to tell that manager who has me on their team? What would you like to tell them?
Well, I think first of all, this is a big personality. So you've got to manage the personality in and of itself. And there may need to be several one-on-one meetings where you pull them off to the side and you remind them about authority and structure in the workplace. Okay? Here's the authority. Here's the person that's in charge. Here's what we're doing. And here's why this is important to do that.
Okay.
Because if you don't, you can give them too much room and they'll just run and maybe class clown the meetings, or maybe they'll just kind of overrun with the fun, entertaining side of what's going on, and we can lose focus. Or they can get so wound up in their idea that their idea becomes the preeminent conversation of the meeting that may not fit holistically into the larger picture of the business.
And what's wrong with that, Chuck? What's wrong with that?
So if you got an ENTP in your business, you got to have a big manager, somebody who's willing to lead that personality. Don't undervalue that. Don't see that as a threat, however, because I would say that most ENTPs probably are excellent second people. If you can get them to buy into your mission and support you, nobody will be more supportive than they are, vocally and outspoken.
I agree, because I know that I make a good worker bee, right? There have been several projects and several teams that I've been on where sometimes they wanted me to play a bigger role. I'm on the board for a nonprofit that helps girls, and they wanted me to be the board chair. I knew I did not have time.
Yeah.
But if you give me a role, I will do that 100%. So ENTPs, we're good worker bees.
Yes.
We really are. Right. But if you give us the lead, we've got it.
Yeah. And you better back off, because that's
Yes.
your thing. You're going to take it and you're going to go the direction that you think it needs to be led in. And so that can be the challenge. So if you are leading someone who is an ENTP, you have to lead them, right? Don't allow them to reverse the relationship, or it'll get out of hand real quickly.
Yeah, I remember the last time I had to call my supervisor in for a meeting.
Come on, let me tell you what you need to do here. Come on.
No, actually happened, Chuck, and I invited him and held it in my office.
Yeah.
Right. I don't work for them anymore. That's
right.
I mean, but if he had handled it, Chuck, I would not have had to do it.
And I think that's a great quote that most ENTPs would have said. That's exactly right. Right.
Well, Chuck, I just want to say that these podcasts have been amazing.
Good.
Right? So I want to thank our listeners for tuning in to Personalities in the Workplace. Make sure you go and check out these amazing cards that Chuck has created, where you can take all of your employees and find out a little bit more about who you're managing, who you're working with, who your coworkers are, who's sitting next to you, to kind of make those moments, those meetings, those moments a little bit more effective, right? And just make the workplace environment, just more cohesive, I would say. That's what these do. So, Chuck, thank you again.
Absolutely.
And this ENTP, this creative, imaginative, entertaining entrepreneur who's not very touchy-feely, is ready to sign out.
All right. And it has been a pleasure, as always.
All right,
Thank you,
Chuck.
Timogi. Thank you for listening to episode 21 of the first season of Personalities in the Workplace podcast. Remember to check out the show notes for stuff to help you with personalities in your workplace. There are these super cool personality cards that we mentioned. Just imagine if everyone in your office had one and you knew what strengths they possess or what stresses them out before you even begin your conversation. You can learn about your type by following the link to take your personality assessment and invite everyone in your team to take it too. Look in the show notes for more information on Timogi Jackson and me, Chuck Taylor. We would love to work with you one day. This season, we have brought you practical, tangible, and engaging conversations that we hope have helped you gain perspective on the people you work with. We've finished sharing information on all 16 personality types, but join us next season when we will be sharing interviews of each personality type in their workplace environment. Do you want to be on the show, or do you know someone who would be great for our show? Complete the application in the show notes, and we will follow up with you. Is there something else you want to learn about regarding personalities? Just send an email to chuck@personalitiesintheworkplace.com.